How about the BYU Cougar basketball team going to Portland and absolutely dismantling Oregon last night at the Phil Knight Invitational? And I just don't know what else BYU can do to assert its authority over the Pac 12. This was a scintillating performance by any measure. The defense was suffocating. Alex Barcelo was amazing. And Jake, I think this just continues an incredible run by BYU that I don't see an end to in any near term, certainly.
Yeah, I think it's impressive. I think that BYU is in a position where they've worked hard to get here, and I think that you're starting to see the fruits of the labor in terms of building a quality program. Like Barcelo's a transfer, right? He's somebody who wasn't brought up through the program as a freshman and all this stuff. He's a talent that they were able to get through the transfer portal, and you're seeing the difference that it makes. And I think these are the kind of kids or guys or players, whatever you want to refer to them as, is these are the kind of players that end up making a difference, and I think that, to be able to come out and rout Oregon like that is nothing short of impressive. And I just think when you start to look at, BYU in the big picture, yeah, they're doing well. There's no doubt about it. They're doing really well. And I think that, yeah, to say that there's no end in sight would probably be accurate. Do I think that they're going to run the table the whole year? No, of course not. But I definitely think they're going to get into the tournament, and I definitely think that they're going to make some noise. And I think it's going to be one hell of a ride, to say the least.
Yeah, and I wonder, and I think the game's great. I mean, obviously the win, the performance, I mean, it's just everything that you want, right? But I think the larger question that has to be asked now is this the beginning of a period of dominance over the state of Utah for BYU? And I know that there's a lot of frustrated Utah fans because of the name and image likeness shortcomings that are going on up on the Hill right now. And if you look at the University of Utah, and I don't know if it's an inability or, frankly, if it is just, a decision not to embrace name, image, likeness, whatever it is, there is a major gap between the wild success that BYU has had in NIL and the lack of success that Utah has had in NIL. The fact that you have a guy in Britton Covey who is, taking full advantage of NIL for himself, but now also spearheading that charge at Utah tells you that there is a disconnect, and I think it is significant. Few times in the history of college athletics have we ever seen anything like NIL come up. And so when you see this happen now, and you see BYU so easily integrate NIL into their athletic departments, and when I say departments, it's women's sports, it's men's sports. Obviously, everybody thinks of football and basketball with NIL, but you look at Deseret First Credit Union, sponsoring women's athletics across the board at BYU. You look at, even just the most minute deals that you're getting at BYU. You're far outdoing what every other school in the state is doing in NIL. And everybody starts wondering, well, why is BYU dominating in recruiting? Well, it's NIL. It is their alumni getting together and, creating a movement. I mean, the leading NIL agency is run by a BYU alum. You look at what, Ryan Smith is doing, in recruiting and, in facilitating. Who is the Utah alum that is stepping up to facilitate anything like what's going on at BYU? And, it used to be like a great example of a Utah alum that really had stepped up and helped the football program was John Madsen. John is, I think, one of the most innovative trainers in the fitness industry right now, but he lives in Scottsdale now. He no longer lives in Salt Lake. So he's not training the Barton family. He's not developing local high school football players to become Utah Ute football players. Like, there are gaps like that consistently exist at BYU. And then you go down south and, Blue Kool-Aid and TDS. And, well, it turns out TDS has been lifting some weights. And now BYU is dominating the Pac-12. They're dominating recruiting over the state of Utah. They're beating Utah on the field of play. I mean, everything is going well for BYU, and it seems like, and I'm not the guy that loves comparing
Yeah.
BYU and Utah.
Right.
I don't like playing the two off of each other. But I think this win last night is just so crystal clear. And it gives you such a clean vision of how BYU has just exploded over the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just in football. And obviously the momentum that football creates is huge. But what Pope has done for the basketball program, what Tom Holmoe has done by supporting all of his coaches across the board, I think it's remarkable, Jake, and I don't know what Utah does to get back into the fight in this state right now.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it starts with NIL. I think that, the reason that kids want to go to BYU right now is because, you're checking all the boxes for them. Hey, like, come to BYU. We're good now. We're going to the Big 12. Like, we're you get an NIL opportunities. Like, it just all these different things that BYU is basically saying, hey, yeah, we've checked that box. Come to BYU. And I think that that's the mindset that Utah has to start having. And I think Utah has lived on, hey, we're the best football team in the state. Sometimes we have good basketball teams, and that's been good enough. But now, because of how hard BYU has been working, obviously the tide has shifted. And so I just think that with BYU, it's just starting. This is just the beginning, I feel like, because if you start to forecast forward, right, and we look at the football program, okay, the football program, let's assume that they went out and they handle their business against SC and, everything's good to go there. I would assume that they'd be able to get into a New Year's Six Bowl. I would assume. So let's just say that they did get into a New Year's Six Bowl. That's a huge recruiting tool right there. Then you look at the basketball program and what they did last night, and you're starting to think, okay, hey, maybe this team can hang with the Gonzagas of the world. And, even if they lose both of those games, they're still going to go to the tournament. And what happens when they make a tournament run? Now you've got another feather in your cap for recruiting. Hey, we're good right now. Come play for us. We're doing things. So I just think that there's a lot of momentum that's been built through the NIL situation that's helped them recruit, that helps them win more games, that then helps them recruit better. It's just a cycle, and they're doing it really well.
And I don't know how you stop it. Because
if you're Utah, I don't think you're trying to. I don't know that you're necessarily. I don't know that the right question to be asking if you're Utah is how do we stop it. I think the question has to be asked, how can we just be better? Because that's what it is. And by the way, the first question inside of that is how long is Kyle Whittingham going to be in the football program? Is he going to continue? Is this actually his last year? Who the hell knows, right? We don't know that. We don't have the answer to that question.
No,
but I think it matters in terms of like what Utah is trying to do and recruiting and all that good stuff. I mean, obviously that's a huge factor.
Yeah, I think the recruiting thing should be terrifying if you're a Ute fan, because you start to really, it becomes crystal clear that any of the rhetoric that you ran about BYU over the last several years and. The rivalry game, and we don't need this game, and this is Pac-12 country. Well, that's all out the window right now. I mean, if you didn't know the name Alex Barcelo before last night, you know it now. I mean, if you think about what he did last night against Oregon, and you think about what it is that Barcelo is capable of doing, I mean, if this kid goes on and continues to play this way, he's going to be the best senior on the West Coast. And if he winds up, if everything plays perfectly, because let's be honest, BYU is going to the NCAA tournament. This win last night, with that kind of statement that people will remember, their schedule, you get 2 shots at one of the best teams in the country in Gonzaga, you're going to the NCAA tournament. And if you have a guy in Alex Barcelo that is one of the best players on the West Coast, arguably the best player on the West Coast. Now you're cooking with gas.
Yeah, but here's the question. Sure, he could be one of the best players on the West Coast, but is he going to be one of the best players in BYU's history?
Stop.
You know what I'm going to say.
Don't say his name.
You know what I'm going to say.
Don't say the name.
You know what I'm going to say.
No.
Yes.
No.
It starts with a J. Come on, we all know Buddy's name.
Jack Conklin?
Yeah, sure. Jacob Conover? You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Don't. Anyway.
Can he be better?
No. Stop
You
it.
don't think he could be better? I haven't said his name yet.
Listen, the JIMMER was BYU.
Uh-huh.
Okay? JIMMER was a guy that, well, first of all, Barcelo's a transfer.
Uh-huh.
So let's, stop.
So?
Stop it. It's one game. Stop. Stop it.
Okay.
You're going to cause problems.
Whatever. I mean, if they make some deep run in the tournament, I'm bringing this back up.
Tanner Plummer says, morning, guys. Great performance by BYU basketball last night. Why even mention that? Why
What do you
even bring up
mean?
his name?
God bless.
Can we just have one BYU basketball conversation with that? Oh, hey, man, Shanghai Sharks. Idiot. Maury Alvarez says, good morning, boys. I really hope you have fun in Hawaii. Yeah, us too. We will. It's not an if. Jordan Royal, good morning too, says, morning, crying baby and horrific back pain has given me the opportunity to watch live.
Well, welcome to the show.
Are you pregnant? No, I'm kidding.
Will you become pregnant?
What is wrong with you today?
What do you mean?
Jordan, glad you're here, man. Appreciate you. Edgar Garcia says, what's up, players? What's up?
Hello.
BYU fan CJ says, Marriott School of Business at BYU. That's why. Well, I don't know if you know, but the U has a pretty good, educational process up there as well. Eric C says, morning, fellas. Chris Karn says, morning, boys. Go Cougs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, you can feel the momentum this morning amongst BYU fans.
Yeah, I just don't think, if you're a Utah fan, I don't think the mission should be to tear BYU down. I think I think if you're Utah, you have to humble yourself and just say, yeah, we have to do a better job. That's just where it is.
Have you been paying attention? That's all that Utah fan does.
Well, I know, but
the
my
obsession
point is,
with the obsession BYU fans have with Utah and that Utah fans have with BYU.
It's amazing. It's a love affair.
That's all the people live for.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? People cannot wait for BYU and Utah in basketball.
Yeah, I know.
Cannot wait.
Yeah, and it's that could be an ass kicking.
Daryl says young coaches make a difference. Yes, they do. Tanner Plummer says hopefully Utah can follow BYU's lead and beat Oregon on the gridiron this Saturday. Well, that's a huge game. That is a huge game.
Yeah.
Chris Karn says, Jake, you shut your mouth. I love AB, but he is not JIMMER. We will not say that name on this show anytime soon. We won't. Jay Arg says, never really thought about Barcelo as an NBA prospect until last night. Nobody did.
Dude.
Nobody did. Like, he's a kid that he's a senior. I mean, it's make or break time. Like, if
and
you're
he's making.
yeah, if you're going to be anything, you're going to be something now. Cody Strickland says, morning, guys. Watching Ingles last night was rough. Age is showing. We got to talk about the Jazz in a minute because, no.
Listen, at the end of the day, the Barcelo situation, all jokes aside, is, I think, the fact that he transferred from Arizona kind of tells you the state of that program. That's that, on a surface level, everyone's going to tell you, oh, it's Arizona. That's some great program. But it's not, and it hasn't been for many years. And I think that, him transferring from that program and coming to BYU and understanding the opportunity, I give the guy all the credit in the world. It's not easy to do that, but as you can see last night, he's taking advantage of it. Now, again, that's one game. You can't come out in the next game against whoever it is. I'd have to pull it back up, but nobody good. You can't come out against an average opponent and do nothing now. You have to continue to show out. So, yeah, is he an NBA prospect now? Yeah, definitely. I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It obviously we have a long way to go, but yeah, I would agree with that.
He's got eyeballs on him now.
Yeah, absolutely right. Austin Lewis says, buen dia. How about BYU B-ball? Well, good day to you, Austin Lewis, as well. Cam Harrison says, BYU undefeated in the Pac-12. Good morning. Shout out to Mo Bamba. Cam Harrison says, the Mo Bamba drop.
Shout out to Mo Bamba.
Is amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't BYU. Just join the the Pac-12 already. Just join the Pac-12 already.
Yeah, they'd already won the championship this year.
Championships.
Yeah, sorry. Sips.
Championships.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Tanner Plummer says Jimmer. There, I said it, but I agree, Monty. I don't think Barcelo will be better than Jimmer, but we'll see.
Shout to Mobamba.
Just saying.
Alex T says Jimmer. Jimmer. Gonzaga basketball tweeted BYU is currently committing an honor code violation against Oregon. Sup, fellas? Good to see you. Greg Hawkins, how are you? Did they really?
I doubt that.
But that would
I would be surprised.
Let's find out.
Who did he say?
Gonzaga basketball. That's fine. That would be amazing if they did that. You know.
Okay, we're looking.
Zags with
we're
the
reviewing.
I'm going to say they didn't tweet that. Or if they did, they deleted it because I don't see it.
Well, there you go.
You know.
Yeah.
That would be awesome if they did. You know what? I think this is a real moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're going to remember, you know, the 2021 season. BYU has come out of COVID and the pandemic slowdown in college athletics, a better, stronger, more agile athletic department than just about everybody else. I mean, how do you have momentum coming out of a pandemic?
The coronavirus.
Well, one, you just play games.
Yep.
Right? I mean, you play games. You don't listen to all the conspiracy theories.
Right.
And you come out and you just do you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why this story we talked about yesterday with Kalani's contract being reworked, or, you know, like when you look at this stuff, I'm just telling you that you have to, I think you just have to find a way to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
And it was a huge mistake by the Pac-12 not to play games. And I think teams like Utah are suffered in football because of it.
Yeah.
And I think that it is one of those things where this ball is rolling downhill for BYU, and I don't know how you stop it. And I think that it is incredibly damaging if you are Utah. Look how many years it went on that Utah dominated recruiting in this state.
Yeah.
It is incredibly damaging and incredibly difficult to turn that tide, because when you recruit better, you win more games. But there's no doubt about that.
But Utah, if you look at the total package, Utah, you know, right now today, does Utah have as much or more to offer than BYU?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
And that's that. And that, to me, again, not you know, criticizing Utah or ripping Utah or disrespecting them, but I just think if we compare apples to apples here, if I'm, you know, let's say a football player, because I think the conversation's a bit closer in football than it is in basketball, to be perfectly honest with you. But, you know, let's say I'm a football player and I'm choosing between these two schools. I'm looking at BYU and I'm saying, okay, yeah, sure, the honor code and some life rules that I have to follow, but NIL, you know, we're relevant. Like, we're doing some things here. And then, you know, you look at Utah, no life rules to follow. It's a little bit more relaxed. I can do whatever I want. But, you know, they're not as successful currently. So that's why I just think it will take time. But Utah will be back.
They will. I just don't know. You know, one of the things I think is so interesting, this NIL thing is huge. I mean,
it's everything right now.
If you look at the fact that, you know, a BYU grad is leading Encore, who is one of the, you know, the top NIL firms in the country, but it's alumni that are doing this. And I know I just said that a minute ago, but I think it's so incredibly important that your alumni base and your booster base support your athletics, because it's the only way to win. And the funny thing is all we hear about is the, you know, the Eccles School of and the Eccles Department of, and where are all of the BYU alums and, you know, dollars? Well, they're going onto the field to play. Yeah. I mean, if you look, again, Ryan Smith, if you look at Kalani, if you look at, you know, just all of the Silicon Slopes are stocked with BYU guys.
Yeah.
And you look at guys, you know, like, you know, and I think it was in the Des News several weeks ago, where you have, um, like Brian Fagan doing huge work for NIL contracts.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that BYU's, alumni situation is superior. And that's why I say it's not that I don't like to have this conversation in a better or worse scenario, right? Like, hey, Utah is worse or somehow a lesser school than BYU. I just don't think that that's necessary. But I think for athletes with the way NIL has impacted everything, athletes are no longer just saying, "Oh, well, I want to go to Utah. I just want to go to Utah." Well, no, I'm not just going to, pour money down the drain because I want to go to Utah. I'm looking for the best total package opportunity. And that's why I say, whether you're in basketball or football or swimming, I mean, whatever it is, you're going to be able to make a couple bucks on your athletic career. Because the other thing you got to remember is that, 90% of college athletes are not going to the next level, right? Like 90% of folks who play college basketball or football or golf or swimming or whatever sport are not good enough to play pro sports. They're just not. And so you have to understand this is their time. So if you're a high school senior and you're looking at these programs and you know that you're not being recruited, you know that, hey, this is going to be my last hurrah and then I'm going to go and get a business major or whatever, Yeah, I think you want NIL packaging. I think you want to make as much money as you can while sports is still in your life in that way.
Right, but Mark Harlan, the athletic director at Utah, has not embraced it.
And that's amazing to me. I don't get it.
It is. I don't understand it. I really don't. And Harlan has talked a good game. He's talked about how, they're going to be ready to go. And, again, this Elevate You thing. And
yeah, whatever, dude.
But, he talks about, he talked about how Utah was going to be at the starting line and ready to go. And, August came and went, and Utah is still standing at the starting line. BYU is at the quarter pole. The Built Bar deal alone has got to piss off Utah alums. I mean, it is massive. Every football player has their tuition paid for. I mean, think about that. There's not a football player at BYU that has to worry about tuition.
Yeah. It's amazing.
And yet, you don't have it. Now, again, I will say, where is Built Bar? Built Bar's an American fork. You're getting local community support
in your backyard,
and you're leveraging it to pay for the tuition of every football player.
And by the way,
walk-ons are no longer a thing at BYU.
And by the way, the winning helps all of this. Winning big games helps NIL situations. They want to be at the forefront. They want the Built Bar sign in the locker room to be in the background when Kalani and the guys are yelling and screaming because they beat USC. They want those are the things that they want. So when you win big games, when you beat Utah, let's say, or whatever the situation is, when Utah wins the Pac-12, the entire conference, it would be ideal if there was an NIL partner in that social media video on Twitter that's going to go viral, right? It would be ideal if when BYU gets into a New Year's Six Bowl and the whole team goes berserk over it, that Built Bar or whatever other NIL partnership that they have working is in the background in that video. That's what BYU understands right now. And I just think you can't put a price on the feel of a program. That's the thing. All of these things together create an atmosphere of awesomeness, basically.
And I think this is what CJ was saying earlier about, the Marriott School of Business is a juggernaut. I mean, if you think about the biggest companies in Utah, look at New Skin. Who does New Skin do business with? BYU. I mean, they're all over their broadcasts.
The New Skin Radio Network.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Built Bar, if you look at the question that I have is, you have the biggest companies in Utah. Well, hell, the church.
Yeah.
The church is one of the top 10 biggest companies in the state. You look at Vivint. Vivint is a big BYU partner.
Yep.
Right? And Vivint is a big Utah Jazz partner. Their name's on the freaking building.
Yes.
And those people are in bed with BYU.
And who's the common factor?
Well, Ryan Smith.
There you go.
But if you think about New Skin, if you think that's why I ask, like, where's Intermountain Healthcare? Where is, if you think about the larger companies, that are making money in this state. I mean, where are those? Where is Utah? Now, obviously, U Health eliminates Intermountain Healthcare, but you get my point. Where is a SkyWest Airlines? Where is a Delta Airlines? Remember
Yeah.
the old Delta Center? Like, where is that branding for Utah?
Yeah, I don't
You
know.
can't tell me that the University of Utah. I don't know. I have a hard time believing that there are not people who are knocking down the doors at Utah to be NIL partners.
Yeah, you can't tell me
How is,
there. I mean,
like,
there has to be, and I think that, and this is kind of why the Harlan thing to me holds some weight, because I'm looking at what BYU is capable of and what they're doing,
right?
and I'm like, great, what is Utah doing? And it's not a hey, Utah's less than BYU thing, but I just think that, to your point, like, yeah, how is Delta not on the field or, on a scoreboard somewhere, or whatever? Like, how do they not have a patch on a jersey or whatever, dude? Whatever the deal is, like, and whatever the company you want to point to, there has to be opportunities for the football team to do work in NIL. I mean, it just is. I mean, that's how it works. It is the Utes, man. It is Utah football. It is a power brand in the state and has been and always will be. And recently, I would say for the last 2 seasons, BYU has been the ticket in the state, right? And so to me, I'm just looking at this and saying, hey, is BYU actually the better package right now, or is Utah just shooting themselves in the foot? And my feeling is the latter, because Utah is just not working hard to get the deals done. It doesn't seem
But
like.
the thing that drives me crazy is little things.
Mm-hmm.
Uniforms. I look at the Utah uniform deal, with all due respect to Under Armour. I mean, BYU and Nike are putting unbelievable products out.
Yeah.
I mean, the uniform combinations at BYU are incredible. And I'm all for cool helmets and stuff up at the U. But the Under Armour deal is just not great, right? I mean, if I said to you, like, who are the major sponsors at the University of Utah for athletics, you're going to say, well, probably America First Credit Union is the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
University of Utah Health comes to mind.
Of course.
But after that, I can't think of a whole lot of others other than Under Armour.
Yeah, and the other problem with this whole thing is the Pac-12 as a conference doesn't have a lot of this going on either.
Yeah.
So, like, you look at the conference level, the program level, like, you just don't have, a lot happening again. And I know, we don't have time to go down the rabbit hole of the conference and that whole situation, but I just think that if you're struggling to do this at a conference level, you're definitely struggling to do it at a program level.
Absolutely.
And it just eats you up. And this is why I say, man, like, this is why BYU did not go to the Pac-12, because the leadership at BYU identified that the Pac-12 is just not a good place to be currently. That doesn't mean it will always be that way, but right now for BYU, the better, opportunity was the Big 12. And by the way, after that performance last night, I think we can all say that they're going to be a problem in the Big 12 in basketball. I think we can all agree on that. So, they made the right decision.
I think it comes down to athletic directors. If we're going to compare BYU and Utah,
seriously,
I mean, when you look at Mark Harlan and he's been there for 3 or 4 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at him versus a guy like Tom Homo, who is, obviously he is BYU. His relationships across the country, his placement on selection committees, Tom Homo is running circles around Utah right now.
Yeah.
And I think that Tom Homo never gets enough credit. I mean, the guy was tweeting last night from Virginia or something. I think he's out with BYU soccer right now, BYU women's soccer or something.
He lives it, dude. I mean, it is his life.
The guy's incredible. And I just don't think that Tom Homo gets enough credit for doing the job that he's done. I mean, he has, whether that's hiring the right administrator or the right head coach for lacrosse, or Kalani or Pope or anybody else you want to point to, Tom Homo is one of the best athletic administrators in the country.
Yeah.
And we need to start talking about that more. The Tom Homo appreciation train needs to leave the station.